Hey, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of the Kolpack and Izzo Podcast, brought to you by Gate City Bank. Along with Jeff Kolpack, I'm Dom Izzo. North Dakota State set to play its penultimate game of the regular season and its final regular season road game on Saturday as they travel to the Ice Castle, which seems appropriate for the weather outside in Fargo, as they'll take on Youngstown State in their 10th game of the season. Bison are coming off their first loss at South Dakota State, and still everything in front of them is in terms of winning the Missouri Valley Football Conference Championship and the automatic bid to the FCS playoffs, which may seem like breaking news to some fans, considering how the reaction after the game on Saturday was.
Penultimate. You use such big words on me. Are you trying to use? Is this Oswego intelligence?
You're a newspaper guy. I try to give as many vocabulary out there just to say.
I'm a newspaper guy, and I was taught long ago that you do not write to a graduate level.
Yes.
You literally write to a junior high level.
Keep it simple, stupid.
Because that's what KISS.
Yes.
Keep it simple, stupid.
Yes.
Because that's what most people read to in America.
It means next to last. So I just wanted to
next to last.
I wanted to sound smart there. All right. So is the sky falling or are things okay?
Oh, my goodness.
We're going to find out at about 11 a.m. tomorrow
morning.
Well,
no, the sky's not falling. But God, down there, 8-1. They have a defense that has historically good numbers in program history, was averaging less than 10 points, giving up until last week. And it's still, at 10.2? Oh, my God.
Yeah. For some.
I'm not saying there's not warts. I'm certainly not saying that. I think the offensive line, and I said this on earlier, I think it's overrated currently right now. I don't know if they have to juggle a thing or two, but the running backs are seeing no room. You're not seeing that crease of 6, 7, 8 yards on a somewhat consistent basis. It's a no basis.
Right.
The best run against South Dakota State was Tamarick Williams breaking a couple tackles, and then they went 3 and out after that. I just think there's an adjustment that needs to be made there somehow, some way. I don't know if it's scheme. I'm not technically savvy when it comes to the offensive line play and how that works. But clearly something is not there that's been there in past years.
To me, and Ent said this on Monday, that some guys have played well in spurts, and I think that's accurate, but it's not been consistent of the 5. It's been peaks and valleys for all of them. Now, during the game Saturday, Cordell Volson moved from right tackle to right guard. Jay Kubas was out as Mason Miller came in and played right tackle. You mentioned this, and I thought you're spot on. Right during the spring season, Ent said no problem blowing things up with the offensive line there. To get Gray Zabel in, Zach Kubas went to the bench, and after that, the Bison run game was different. Also, though, that coincided with the return of Hunter Lipke into the lineup, and Lipke didn't touch the ball on Saturday against South Dakota State. Those two things, I think, need to coincide again for this coming game on Saturday.
Something. Yeah. I think something. And again, we are judging this on a FCS title level. We are judging a program that's won 8 titles in 10 years.
I'm just judging it on the past offensive lines that they've had. I'm not even going to compare to 2019 because, as you wrote, I think that's an all-time level. But just past Bison O-lines, and they're not there, in my estimation.
And exactly what I said. Yeah. And past O-lines were on a national championship level is what I'm saying. And so is this line decent? Yeah. I mean, it's not a dumpster fire by any means. They're still, what are they averaging? The averages are really skewed because Kobe breaks off a 97-yard run.
Right.
But then every other run, or most runs after that, are stacked or the stretch play that feels like there's 7 guys in the backfield by the time Kobe gets 2-3 steps upfield. Just something is just not right there. It just feels off. And I judge this I've been covering the Bison football program and veer offense since the 80s, consistently at the Forum since 1995. Something just feels off. I know it when I see it.
Do you think it's a rotation deal in terms of who's carrying the ball for the Bison?
I don't think it's a running back deal. I don't.
Okay.
I don't. I see too many guys in the backfield. That's what I see. I don't see the surge.
I'm with you. I think it needs to be a different rotation. I think Tamarick Williams should be starting games.
I do too. I think he's the guy now. I think he and Hunter Lipke are the guys.
And you sprinkle in Dom Ganella and Kobe Johnson. And Jalen Bussey, who I think, again, he didn't play at all on Saturday against the Jacks. That's a guy, I know he's not an every down back, but he can change things up. But to your point, if there's no hole for Bussey to get through, then he's ineffective. He can't be a he can't do what he does.
He needs
well.
a little crease.
Yes,
he needs a little crease.
And there was none of that on Saturday.
I don't think it's been consistently since the September season.
Since Towson, that was their most complete game. After that, and granted, obviously they're now in Valley play where it gets much harder, but that was their best game of the year.
After the Towson game, you thought, wow, okay, this running
offensive
game.
line was going to be really good.
Yeah.
And it's not played that way.
It hasn't developed.
No. And now here's the question now. You're in game 10, right?
Is this what you are?
Right, that's my question.
Yeah.
Isn't this what you are?
I don't know.
I guess we'll find out.
I think this is a big game in that respect.
Right.
Are you going to remember November with a good running game, or do you have to switch things up?
Blow it up. And how do you do that in game 10? I mean, the final regular season game is next Saturday.
I know everybody wants to see all these, South Dakota State gadget between the legs kind of stuff.
It's not the Bison deal.
It's not the Bison deal. I think you have to have some of it. And they did throw some stuff at the second half.
Yep.
And it worked. I thought that the fake run and then throw pass by Cam Miller
the
was.
Stat we got sent to us, 6 of the 9 games, the Bison quarterback has led the team in rushing.
Yep.
It's not Trey Lance out there doing it. That's the problem in my estimation. Maybe it's not a big deal. I think that is. If the running backs aren't your leading rusher, I think you have an issue there.
And I know they want to go 3, 4, 5 deep, but forever, and Tyler Rowe is part of this, there's always 1 or 2 guys.
Outside of 2014 was John Crockett. That was the one year on this whole stretch.
It was either Crockett or Jury or
King
Frazier and
Chase Morlock. I mean, you think
it was always 1 or
yes.
2, and 1 or 2 it gives them a chance to get involved and get
DJ.
Yeah,
it was DJ and Sam for a few years. Then it was Crockett and O'Jury. You had different guys that were able to play off one another, not 4.
I think, and it's like basketball. Dave Richmond goes, okay, we're starting at 10 or 11 rotation right now. He goes, I would imagine you probably get down to 8. He would guess. That would be his 8 or 9. It just fits better. It feels better. It's like I go back. It just doesn't feel right throwing 4 guys in there. And, great, you're deep, but look at the results right now.
The other interesting parts of Matt Entz's press conference, which seems like eternity ago on Monday, he said he expects that Cam Miller will be the starting quarterback for the game this coming Saturday. That I forget how he phrased it to you. You asked about Quincy, about his health-wise, that he's getting there.
Something like that.
That he's available to play.
He's getting there, right.
That's the part that's intriguing to me. So, again, I'll ask you this. Would you anticipate that Cam Miller's the guy the rest of the way now?
I think so. I don't know. I think I need to see something this tomorrow.
Yeah.
I need to see something tomorrow. It's middle of November.
Imagine you're changing quarterbacks as we get to the playoffs. I mean, that just seems. But granted, the Bison did this. Remember last year in the spring, Cam Miller starts his first 2 games are playoff games. So I guess maybe we shouldn't be so shell shocked by this. But everything about the spring was so weird; it just kind of went with the flow. Now you're back in normal times. It would seem odd that you're changing quarterbacks in the regular season finale or a playoff game.
Is Cole Payton going to be part of the mix yet this season?
Well, he's played 2 games. So
I'm of the belief that he's going to be
go.
the guy going forward after this year.
Really? In 2022?
I believe so.
Wow. Okay.
Again, gut feeling.
Yeah. Now, I said that. Gosh, I want to say that. I said it last spring, and I got laughed at on that. Probably by you, I think. So
look what Bobby Petrino did with his quarterback situation in Missouri State.
He had no hesitation there. Yep. You're absolutely right.
This guy did do it. This guy didn't do it. Let's bring in another guy.
Yep.
It's FBS football. Well, most football, college. It's college.
Yep.
Your job is to not soothe the feelings of all quarterbacks.
You got to win games.
You got to win games.
Petrino's doing that. Jason Shelley came in, and I think the Jared Johnson, who was on the roster, he's the third string guy now.
He went through 3 quarterbacks.
Yes. Yep.
That's a short amount of time.
Yep. Okay, so answer your question. Do I see him playing? I don't think so. I think he got his 2 in, unless it gets to a drastic situation. I think.
Yeah, not at this time of the year.
Cole come on the road trip. He'll be there tomorrow at Youngstown because he has on all the other road trips. But I don't anticipate you see him on the field unless it is something, an injury to both guys that you see him playing the rest of the way. The other thing that was brought up, and he pointed this out, he said James Kaiser was extremely average in the game. Kaiser, that was his first game back in 6 weeks since he played in the UND game. I'm not sure how much Kaiser plays this coming Saturday. I got that implication that Cole Wisniewski was really good out there. Kaiser may not have been ready to go. And it showed maybe on that second play of the game when Pierre Strong goes for 75 yards.
It's hard to miss that many games and then come back and go right into it's doable. And if you're good, you should be able to really, plug right in. But maybe he isn't healthy. Maybe it's just been, he's probably not been in the weight training mode, certainly with his legs.
Boy, but you throw that out there, though, against a guy like Pierre Strong. I mean, Jeff, that set the tone for the whole game.
It did.
The Bison could not really recover after that touchdown. I know they got it tied at 7, but that was a punch right to the chin to start that game on a 75-yard play.
One team came to play,
yes,
and the other team did not.
Yep.
Obvious.
Now, Bison defensively were good in the second half. They held the Jacks to 3 points. I thought
they got
their mojo going in the second half of that game.
Made whatever adjustments they needed to make and played pretty well. But, yeah, you just can't start like that in a big game like that.
And I think, and you brought this up, there's nothing about Youngstown. This is all an NDSU game tomorrow. You know what I mean? The opponent obviously is there, but this is about the Bison getting, quote-unquote, well for the next game with South Dakota.
They played really well after Entz came out and
after the Mo State game
and wasn't happy about the way they played. Maybe that's how he has to coach this team. I'm not a head coach psychologist
here. Again,
he
said perception and reality for his younger players are two different things right now. That reality is, are you as good as you think you are? And that's a heck of a shot to his locker room.
I get the sense this is a hard team to coach. I really do. It's
still a young team.
It's a young team, but it's not. I mean, you got a lot of veterans.
You have guys who have played, seniors, but you still are a majority of either sophomores or redshirt freshmen that are playing a lot of reps right now.
Right. I don't know if Kleiman and in those years and toward the end of the years of Bull here necessarily had those issues to deal with.
Didn't seem it.
When he was talking about he's worried about social media, these guys are looking at you, listening to you and me more than the coaches or whoever, McFeely or
That's interesting.
TV or radio or Culhane or somebody. I don't know. Are they listening to and that was odd and you don't hear that very often from a head coach here.
You see those.
It's an immature team right there.
Yes. You see the great videos that the NDSU video department puts out, and they're really, really good. Recruits see that. Obviously, it's a huge deal. But the players see that, too. They see that clip of Rob Ambrose saying they're a machine or a monster that you could never prepare for.
Yeah.
I mean, how much does that – I'm human. I would play into that. That's pretty cool to hear that about me. That's pretty cool to hear about our team.
I'm pretty good.
And then you get punched in the mouth. Again, it's one game. It's one loss. They still have everything in front of them they can play for. But it's a trend that we've seen throughout this season, I think is your point and the one I'm trying to make as well.
So this is a maturity game. Is this team? Yeah, maybe it's a maturity game.
And think about it, Jeff. It's going to be bad weather tomorrow.
Yep.
It's not going to be a good crowd.
Nope.
Youngstown's not very good. I mean, This is all setting up to either you hop on this team or you let them hang around and you're in a tight game to go on Saturday. It goes one or two ways there, I think, on how this game could potentially go. Let me mention quick on Youngstown here. With Doug Phillips in his second year after taking over for Bo Pelini, they're 2-6. They're only playing 10 games.
They got one guy, Dom. One guy.
McLaughlin's really good. Jaleel McLaughlin. I think their quarterback could be good. Demetri Crenshaw, he's a redshirt freshman who came back. He got you. Youngstown was up 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter at UND last Saturday before UND came back. I think they've got something there. It should not be forgotten, and I did forget this. Youngstown got hammered with NCAA violations from Bo. They're on 2 years of probation. They lost 3 official visits, 2-week ban on unofficial visits, and all recruiting communication, and its evaluation days reduced by 3. You know it better than I how big this is.
Mm-hmm.
You get hammered like that affects you for not only the next class, but the one after that.
Oh, I would imagine some other schools make that known that, oh, by the way, Youngstown has recruiting issues.
Phillips actually said in his press conference, he says, we feel like we're the outlier, because we are. We're all the way out here. Everybody has to travel far away. And I thought that was the first time I'd ever heard that from a Youngstown coach, whether it be Wolford, whether it be Bo, whether this guy, to feel like they are on the outskirts of the league, which they are.
But you always hear about what great recruiting ground that is.
It's Ohio. It's football. It's
Western
Youngstown,
Pennsylvania.
Right. It's Youngstown State. You still go there. Look at it on their notes, right? 7 FCS title game appearances right on the mast of their notes, right? The Youngstown boys. Tressel is still there. He's the president of the school. I mean, it's still an aura of football, but we've said this, I think, every time we've gone there. It doesn't feel like that way anymore.
No, it doesn't.
Even with their national title game appearance in 2016, it's still, what happened after that? They went right off the cliff.
I think, when was the first year NDSU was out there? 09?
08. 08 was there, because that was the first year in the
They had
Valley.
a pretty good crowd there, but for the most part, every time we've been there, and maybe we've been there too much in November, but for the most part, I have never seen a crowd. And the stadium, you walk in.
It's gargantuan.
Yes. You get it has an FBS feel to it, for sure, especially with the DeBartolo.
DeBartolo. There you go. You got it.
DeBartolo.
It's all right.
That lounge.
And they have the massive practice facility, indoor practice
I
facility.
mean,
right there.
it's like the third highest point in Eastern Ohio.
When you get to the top of that stadium, you're up there. You can maybe see Indiana when you're up there. You're
right.
way up there.
So, yeah, and it's got that feel. They have an indoor facility. Nice. Very nice indoor football facility.
I don't know.
Interesting
know
that Stegemeyer on our pregame show last week when he was on, we were talking about facilities, and he said the indoor
he pointed right to the
is much more important than the new stadium.
And it goes for recruiting and for practice, especially now that they're in there every single day. And now, obviously, you see what's going on the north side of Fargo.
I don't think people understand right now.
No, it's just dirt. It's
wait till
dirt.
that thing starts going up. It's going to be much higher than the shack.
I'm looking over. My wife teaches over at Morehead High School, and the new walls are going up. It's already transformational over there. How different that's going to look. So to your point, when people see it, and I don't think they fully appreciate it, Jeff, with the shack, because it was being built where the BSA was. This is a brand new structure that's going to be gargantuan.
50 million, and we believe they're going to, instead of 2 phases, they're just going to finish it all. And we believe their funding's in place for $50 million.
Let's do a little bracketology here before we do some pick 'em and wrap these things up. So with the Bison loss now, it's opened the door for Brent Vigen's Montana State crew, as they are still unbeaten against the FCS teams. You've got James Madison back in the mix with only 1 loss, and obviously Sam Houston. So let's just, for the sake of argument, play this thing out where everybody wins out. So Sam Houston is 10-0. Montana State is 10-1. The Bison are 10-1, and James Madison is 10-1. How would you see?
Well,
those
we
four?
believe NDSU has would have a better resume than James Madison based on ranked wins.
Correct.
We believe Montana State would be better than NDSU based on undefeated if they went out and undefeated the FCS.
Against the FCS teams. Yep. They'd have 2 road wins against Eastern Washington and Montana.
NDSU's loss at South Dakota State is worse than Montana State's quality loss at Wyoming. That's what we're thinking.
In the eyes of the committee, probably. Yep. And then Sam Houston will have been unbeaten and beaten nobody.
We believe South Dakota State will win out. They'll be number 5. Villanova, I'm not sure about that. Eastern, I'm not sure about that.
Eastern's got a biggie on
UC
Saturday.
Davis has its life right in front of it,
and
too.
They're playing Davis, and Sac State are the last 2 for UC Davis. Right. Yep. You're not convinced?
I don't think Sac
Nova?
State. I don't think Sac State's going to be 80. I think it's going to be Davis.
Wow. Okay. Well, that will literally play itself out over the next 2 weeks, as it will for the Bison.
I think,
frankly,
I feel like Nova's a little high, but I don't think anybody's done anything better than that. Although the voters have Kennesaw State,
correct.
Whatever.
I just don't even get me started.
They played.
They beat Lionheart or whatever.
Reinhardt.
NAI school. Give me a break. Play somebody, and then you can get ranked. I would go Sam Houston 1, Montana State at 2. I put the Bison 3 and JMU 4. If everybody holds,
I agree. You can't dispute that.
That's why Bison fans should be rooting for the Grizz in 2 weeks for the Brawl of the Wild game. Because if Montana State loses, then I think you elevate. And NDSU still would have a great case, Jeff. I think they won the Missouri Valley, the toughest league. They'd have 4 ranked wins to say, wait a minute, we should be the 2 seed. And maybe they will. I don't know.
But Montana State's win at Eastern was huge.
And if
that goes
right.
a long way.
And if they win at Missoula for the 5th time in a row,
they deserve number 2.
Yeah,
I believe
hard,
that.
It would be hard to put them. And they lost by, 3 to Craig Bowles' team in Laramie to start the season. That would be tough on that. Now, let's look just beyond here. With Northern Iowa losing last week and the stunner that it was to Illinois State, now they have a monster game this coming Saturday against Mo State. They have to win, because if not, then the Valley, I think, is down to 4.
I agree.
Because South Dakota would have to either beat the Jacks or the Bison to get to 7 wins.
Although I think
there's
going to be a 6-win team that gets in.
Okay, so that's my next question.
Yeah.
Would Northern Iowa be that 6-win team?
They'd be in the conversation for sure. I mean,
because here you go. The Bison are in. We believe Missouri State is in, right? Even if they split their last, and they're not gonna. They have Dixie State after they play Northern Iowa, so they're going to get to 7 wins. So Southern Illinois has lost 2 in a row. They're 6-3, but they have Indiana State, and then I believe they play Youngstown as their final. Yeah, they play Youngstown for their final game.
They'll probably end.
So they're going to get to 8-3. Let's just say that the Jacks are in after the FBS win and the win over the Bison. Even if they lose their last 2, they're still in. USD is 6-3.
They need 1 win.
They play the Jacks and then at the Bison. Would they be enough to get in at 6-5?
6-5, losing your last 2, 3 of your last 4.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Then Northern Iowa is 5-4. Right? Let's say if they lose,
but they
to
got
Missouri
that South
State
Dakota State win
and the Southern Illinois win.
Yeah, they're in. I think they're in at 6.
If they were to lose tomorrow and beat Western, they'd be 6-5. And they have the win over Sacramento State by 3 touchdowns.
And they played Iowa State tough. They're in. I believe a 6-win team is going to get in the field.
I think I'm with you now.
Yep.
I think Northern Iowa at 6-5, even if they were to lose tomorrow.
I started looking at these other leagues, and there's so many leagues. Yep. Everybody's got a lot of losses out there.
Yep. I'm with you. I think they're in at 6-5.
Thank you. First time I've ever changed your mind on bracketology.
If they were to beat Mo State, do you think at 4 losses they would have a chance at a seed? They would have wins over Sac State, SDSU, and SIU.
I don't think so.
You're probably right.
Just too many losses.
But still,
you can't seed a 4-loss team.
So here's the crazy part, and you mentioned this before we get to our pick'em on the Big Sky. With Sacramento State plays UC Davis the final game of the season. Davis plays Eastern Washington this weekend, and then Sac State. So everything is right there in front of them. And I'm not even talking about the Montana schools, because Sac State can win the league outright if they just win their final 2 games. And meanwhile, your guy Dan Hawkins is sitting out there. They've got an FBS win. They beat Eastern Washington. They can zoom up the seeds if they win tomorrow.
And don't sleep on Davis. That's what I mean as far as a seeded team.
They could get to 10-1 and what, 5 seed?
Boy, that'd be fun to go out to Davis, wouldn't it?
You're already getting your travel plans set here. Let's do some pick-up
Especially when it's winter outside.
Well, heck, a trip to Bozeman in late December would be interesting if it ends up coming to fruition there. But so much to play for here over the final 2 games of the season. Let's do some picks here before we wrap it up. Southern Illinois lost 2 in a row. They're not losing 3 in a row, correct?
SIU is 4-10 in November under Nick Hill.
Wow.
4-10 in November under Nick Hill. Lost last week. I'm still going with SIU in this game. Nick Baker, 9-3 as a starting quarterback.
That's a great stat. Save that for the pregame show tomorrow. That's really good. Don't burn all your good ones here.
Okay.
South Dakota State at USD. They did not play last year in the spring. The last time they played in the Dakota Dome, USD won the game. First time they had beaten the Jacks in the Division I era.
Man, I got a couple doozies here, too. I'll just pick one. South Dakota State's 4-0 on the road this year, looking to go unbeaten in the Valley for the first time since 2009.
On the road.
On the road.
And?
I got South Dakota State.
I'm taking the Coyotes.
Okay.
I think USD will get them tomorrow. I think it's going to be a great game. I think USD will win.
I got another stat on that could lend credence to your pick there.
Illinois State goes to UND. Each team at 4-5 on the season. Illinois State off the overtime win over UNI. UND had to come back and beat Youngstown last week.
I can't figure UND out. Yeah. Should have lost to Youngstown, but should have beaten Missouri State. I thought Illinois State was going to mail it in against Northern Iowa, but didn't. I can't figure this game out. I got to go to UND.
I'm taking UND because they're good at home. It's the same reason I picked them last week, and that's why I'm going to pick them tomorrow in that game. How about the big game? Northern Iowa at Missouri State. UNI has been so schizophrenic this year against a Mo State team that went and played really well in Carbondale last week.
I don't know how he does it, but Mark Farley is the master of getting his team ready for elimination games.
Yep.
Except in the playoffs,
Right.
I kind of dog it there a little bit. I'm taking Northern Iowa.
Gosh, I was going to go there too. I agree with you. I think Northern Iowa wins tomorrow.
You do?
On the road.
Okay.
I do. I think they win that game. Last game before we go, Eastern Washington at UC Davis at 7 o'clock on ESPN Plus tomorrow night. So for those that are intrigued, you can finally stream these games. Thanks to the Big Sky for getting on board on that. What do you make here? You were gloating all week about picking Montana State to beat Eastern. What do you got here?
I like Dan Hawkins as a veteran coach. Eastern Washington's old coordinator resigned.
Yes.
Quit.
On Tuesday.
The week of the Davis game.
Yep.
I think somebody out of the O-line coach or somebody or the receivers coach is taking over
duties there.
A little too much drama going on in Aaron Best's team. I like Dan Hawkins. He's been around the block. What did he say at Colorado again? Is it intramurals?
Yes.
This ain't intramurals on this game.
You're like the Aggies
My
at home.
my intramural old coordinator didn't quit this week.
I'll take Eastern on the road just to be different from you. I think they come back and win.
You have oppositional disorder with me.
I have to because I'm trailing. I gotta take some flyers here in the last 2 weeks of the season.
You're predicting the fold for me.
So let's say if Davis wins, Eastern is 7-3, and I think they have Portland State to wrap it up. But remember, they have an FBS win, but a non-counter.
Maybe they host a game
I don't
know.
I don't think they're playing. I don't think they're a seed.
No,
right?
no.
If they lose this game,
they're out of
tomorrow.
a seed.
They're playing Thanksgiving.
I think
weekend.
Davis is in a seed then.
If they win tomorrow, I agree with you. Reminder: the football game tomorrow is on ESPN Plus at 11 a.m. It's exclusive to that. Bison
Nothing we can do about that.
That's the Missouri Valley game.
Nothing we can do about that, people.
That's contractually obligated there. So, Bison game day will be live. Jeff, myself, and a cast of thousands will be in Youngstown tomorrow.
Dress warm, buddy boy. I'm a little worried about you.
I got it. I'm good there. Don't you worry. I have my hat, so I'm screw the hair
You wore
tomorrow.
jeans to Southern Illinois when it was Illinois State in the blizzard. You wore jeans.
I did. I got my long johns ready. I'm all set for tomorrow's game.
God,
we'll be live
me.
there at 10 a.m. tomorrow.
I'm like your father.
My dad will appreciate that.
Yeah.
Tomorrow at 10 a.m. And then don't forget, Jeff, myself, Mike McPhee will be back to recap everything with our post-game show from Youngstown. It's been 10 years since the Penguins stunned the Bison here in 2011. We'll see what happens tomorrow out at the Ice Castle. For Jeff Kolpack, I'm Dom Izzo. That's our latest edition of the Kolpack and Izzo Podcast, brought to you by Gate City Bank.